I have no fucking clue about RWBY Volume 5, Episode 13. This episode has a lot of stupid, but there's some stupid I can accept, but, for the stuff I don't accept, well, in short, there's a bit of fighting. Nora smacks Hazel out, Blake shows up, Ilya disarms all the bombs, the cops and menageries show up, Blake beats Adam in the end. What about this is dumb? Hazel can suddenly shoot lightning, Nora can launch him straight the fuck out, Hazel injects himself with new dust steroids that do fucking nothing in this episode. Yang and Ruby's idea of teamwork is to split up and attack Mercury and Emerald individually. Mercury decides to punch much slower than his usual attacks is a good mood right after he disarms Ruby and decides to blabber. Crow is yet again an afterthought and hit with the Wolf effect so hard he might as well have died in Volume 4, but they couldn't do that because he wouldn't be here for the exposition scenes then. Somehow Hazel catches Magna Hild, slams Nora down while holding it, then suddenly isn't holding it, and then conveniently it's right in front of Nora even if it wasn't there before. Lionheart disappears too in this episode. Yang and Ruby's fight could have been interesting and shown their sisterly teamwork, but got the same treatment Yang's individual fight got. Somehow Blake managed to travel in the span of I'd say 12 hours at most, this entire distance, and somehow that one boat carried the population of an entire island. Weiss can somehow stab straight through Hazel with her Lancer Queen summon. Ilya can also somehow disarm a mosaic of bombs in about 2 minutes because, there were only 2 minutes before they did stop pulling them around. Adam's model actually isn't touching the trigger to go boom. Adam isn't smart enough to carry dust for his moon slice. Adam has apparently never fought someone who can dodge and got taken out by a single physical attack from Blake, which is monumentally stupid. And then there's John not even knowing that he's using his fucking semblance. Blake shows up to see the rest of RWBY, says one line and then leaves. She doesn't say anything to them that a human being might, but, she just leaves. Yang runs off to confront Raven, and we get this turning mad to tranquil shot as if to signify she's had some growth as a character, which obviously this in the last volume shows so obviously. Oh no, those volumes are too busy jerking off to actually have Yang develop. She drops her arm for some reason, even though she could just swing around and shoot Mercury or punch him off of her arm, because that would make more sense than going one-armed into a fight against your super mum. Mercury and Emerald are too dumb to know how to get past a wall they could easily deal with if they, ran up the stairs and jumped into the hole from the top, or kicked through it with the metal legs that are strong enough to match Yang. Speaking of Yang, she does show up at the end, but she fell an absurdly long distance and doesn't even seem mildly damaged from it. Okay. The Mistral police show up, and apparently police in Remnant actually do things, which I hardly believe. Sun is useless as usual, and I would prefer if he and Blake took on Adam in an actual fight, but who wants fights in RWBY? That'd be ridiculous. But credit where credit's due, the Cinder and Raven fight is bitchin'. Sure, it starts naff as hell with this extremely goofy flying thing, but the fight takes itself so unseriously and goes so over the top, I love every moment of it. This over-the-top speed and crazy terrain-destroying shit is what RWBY was built on, and finally, the volume actually goes through with it. Of course, they want to make these guys seem ultra-fast and ultra-strong, with special visual and audio effects, but we already saw that in earlier battles. I mean, the first part of this fight is no different to Crover's Tyrion or Crover's Winter, and the physics-defying crap we've seen in Cinder vs. Pyrrha, Cardinal, or Penny. The fighting while climbing up rocks is new for the series, as far as I can remember. It reminds me a bit too much of Kung Fu Panda and Tai Lung's Escape, although the difference is that Kung Fu Panda is actually good. But I really like how the battle just gets more and more ludicrously over the top. They start shattering their weapons and taking each other's weapons and fighting in big balls of energy before going full on anime and whipping out these swords.
Bankai.
They start shaking the foundation of the building. Cinder traps Raven, who freezes Cinder in place, with a big old rock smashing into her. She's not even phased. Raven jumps onto falling Stonezilla. Cinder flies up like fucking Iron Man in a really awkward pose. They start flying and jumping across rocks while smacking each other in mid-air and annihilating giant chunks of stone. Cinder smashes one and Raven cuts one in fucking half. Then the two they're on smash into the ground. They're not even phased. Vanals fucking shoots Cinder, who gets frozen and falls to her doom. It's awesome! But that death is sadly not fulfilling at all, and Cinder probably isn't dead. They just needed to do it so next chapter when Raven and Yang are talking, Cinder can impale Raven from behind and kill her, thus leading to Yang getting the power, which would piss me right the fuck off, and also Vanal disappeared before she was important. Obviously they knew this because Vanal just shows up in a completely different location to where she was before to cover the fact. But it's a damn good fight, a good finale moment. Of course it's not the finale fight, that would just make too much sense, but is this what they've been doing all this time? Did we really have to sit through so much boring talking and lame fights and the worst choreography since Transformers Energon for this? Volume 4 managed to have some semi-decent fights throughout, barring one, even with Tyrion vs. Crow in the works, and Volume 3 managed to have things like Yang vs. Mercury and Pyrrha vs. Penny, despite the epic Cinder and Pyrrha fight taking up their time. This volume had triple the budget? Does that seem right to you? Oh, and they keep telling us Neo's coming, but no, if she came at this point, it'd be an insult. With how good this fight is, it's so hard for me to say this doesn't make up for the volume, but it really, really doesn't. The volume is still horrible. And Barbara basically said straight up, if you don't see someone die, they can come back. If Neo is going to come back, and she went through this, and I don't see why Cinder can't, given Raven got out of the exact same predicament she put Cinder in. So after that, Raven gives no fucks about Vernal dying, her close friend, just closes her eyes to avoid our souls being sucked out. She unlocks a door to reveal the amazing Sahara Desert. Okay. And then Yang shows up. Raven turns to look at her, surprised, then mad. The camera pans up to Yang as they stare off, preparing for the greatest confrontation of all time, then it cuts to black. What exactly is Yang going to do? I guess given Adam and Crow went from badass to plain ass, it's probable she'll beat Raven, but she's got one arm. I'm really not looking forward to the finale. Odd, because I was even looking forward to Volume 4's finale, and I thought the episode before that was... Well, that was episode 13. It existed. It had 3 minutes I don't think was wasted, and the rest can die in a fire.